And one thing I want to talk about this morning is how careful I want to be in this forum to not set this up as if the purpose of the forum is to get quote unquote results. I've been really, really thinking about that topic and how everything in the culture is about it's worthless if you don't get the results that the ego thinks that it should be getting. In fact, I'll give you an example of it that I was just thinking about yesterday in the fear call that I did in the course, because somehow the topic came up about having children and why people have children. And I was reminded about this woman back when I was giving readings who was getting older, and she'd had one child when she was a lot younger, and she was incredibly enraged that as she got older, the child wasn't there taking care of her in those years. And I know in some cultures, that are maybe more evolved, that's of course the child takes care of the parent. But that's not a given in this culture. And so she had this rage of, and I babied you and I diapered you and I bought you food and now you're not even there. And, a lot of what I was doing with her over that time of giving readings was like, there's something about parenting that isn't for the payoff. If you do it for the payoff, it's a mess. Same way, if you get involved with somebody just for the payoff, like, I'm there just because you're saving me from my own loneliness, or you're keeping me from having a look at myself, that payoff isn't going to work. And so, ironically, this woman finally came to this place of just going, I had that child because it was the right thing to do. I wanted to have that child, and I'm glad that I gave it life. And she actually, through offering and praying her buns off, was able to let go of the anger that she didn't get the payoff that the ego wanted. And then ironically, in the last year or so, before she passed, this kid showed back up in her life and started to be much more present. And I'm convinced to this day that it happened because she had let go of her anger of not getting the payoff that she thought was the purpose of why she took the action. So there's something about this topic that I've been really thinking about that and you can even apply it to being in this forum or to any spiritual actions. If you're not doing it for the payoff that the mind says, if I do this, I should get this or I should get that. And if you actually simply do it because at this moment in your life, your soul is saying, yes, I need this. Yes, this speaks to me. Yes, this lights something in my heart on fire that I'm not finding many places. I'm getting this connection to some kind of internal truth, independent of outer results. I really think this is just an incredibly important topic. It's actually very tied to offering and to stuff I've talked about before with the different levels of offering. And at level 2, you're kind of offering to get God to help, to get the divine to help, but you still think of it as mine. And when you're at that my spiritual growth, my evolution, then what keeps happening is that suffering comes from holding on to the my. And then something happens at the level 3 where you kind of let go of the result. And you're simply going, you know what, God, I'm offering this to you because from the level of my soul, I know this is the right thing to do. And then it's like an inner truth just starts to take over, and the results matter much less. And, ironically, as I was thinking about all this, as, the way things happen, I opened up Facebook this morning, and a friend of mine was putting some quotes from Thomas Merton on her page, which some of you may know is this great Catholic theologian, amazing writer. He wrote over 60 books. He's a great writer. Anyway, I put one of the quotes on the forum page, but then I noticed that there was this other quote, and I want to just read you a moment of it because it was exactly, I was like on this whole thing thinking about not attaching to results, but instead doing something just because of its essential rightness. And then all of a sudden I realized Thomas Merton was saying the same thing. So here's his quote. He said, "Do not depend on the hope of results. When you're doing some sort of work that you've taken on, you may have to face the fact that your work might apparently even be worthless or even achieve no result at all, or even perhaps not the results that you were expecting. But as you get used to this idea, you start more and more to concentrate not on the results, but on the value and the very rightness and the truth of the work itself." It's just like, I thought, oh my God, that's it. He says, as you get used to this idea of letting go of results, you start more and more to concentrate not on that, but on the value, the rightness, and the truth of the work itself. And then that's what carries you. And it's also what he's writing about is the level 3. Like you're just doing it because your soul says yes. Yes. And, I've even had this happen where sometimes people leave the forum, which I'm always happy, not happy when they leave, but when somebody says, I need to do something else for a while, maybe I'll be back later, I'm always like, that's fine. That's fine. Whoever needs to be here, whoever is profiting from this will always be here. It's fine. But what has happened so many times is somebody leaves for a while and then they come back after, a month or two and they say, my soul really wants to do this. Like it really wants to learn this. And then they got connected from that place of the soul just saying yes. And when the soul does that, it's very independent of results. It's just yes. So I wanted to take a moment. I wanted to say a couple more things about that too, but I thought we could just do an opening meditation for a minute and just let you get connected to that feeling of being independent of results. So I'm just going to focus on your breath and connect for a moment to that inner divine, that inner place of your power and your clarity that's always there, even when you don't even trust it, you don't even know where it is, it still sits there in the silence inside of you. And just feel yourself resting with that inner divine, that there is this part of yourself that is independent of all payoffs. It doesn't need any payoffs. It is the divine. It is whole and complete with or without whatever is coming. And just let something come into your mind that you might feel very attached to. Something that is really kind of torturing you, whether it's a relationship or your health or even the fact that you don't see results from what you're doing spiritually, whatever it is. And imagine that you can take that topic, whatever came up, and you can go back into offering. You're giving this back with open hands to the divine, to this great one on the inside. But this time, you can feel yourself saying, help me accept this right now as it is, whatever it is. Just help me accept it in the now. Even if it is baffling and crazy. Just right this moment, help me accept it without having any idea what's coming next, because truthfully, no one ever knows. But in this moment, help me open and accept whatever this topic is exactly as it is. Let me rest with this. Knowing that as I offer this to you, I'm opening to the highest outcome, even when I have no idea what that might be. Freeing myself from the burden of fighting reality. So for the moment, I'm just saying yes, however things are. Just let me bless this. Now you may get shown, as you say, let me bless this, all of a sudden your inner divine may start to show you actions that actually need to be taken. So just notice if any advice or actions come up for you. And then as you're ready, you can slowly come back out. If you had that come up, you might want to take a moment and just write down anything that happened.